You ever wonder why people believe what they do? We usually point to things like culture or history or family. But what if one of the biggest influences is something we walk on every single day? Today, we're going to look at this invisible map that geography draws all over our world and see how it quietly shapes our deepest beliefs. Okay, let's get into it. First things first, we got to get one idea totally out of the way, and that's the idea of a single Africa. It's just not a thing. The continent is this massive, incredible mosaic of deserts, grasslands, rainforests, and mountains. It isn't one story, it's thousands of different stories, and each one was born from a totally different landscape. So, this is the big question for today, the one I want you to just keep rattling around in your head as we go through this. How does the actual ground beneath your feet influence the ideas inside your head? All right, let's start at the very beginning. Survival. Before you can have culture, before you can have religion, you've got to eat. You got to find water, you got to find shelter. And the environment, it calls all the shots. Okay, this right here is a perfect example of how geography can be two things at once. On one hand, you've got the Sahara Desert as this giant, massive barrier that separates people. But for others, well, for them, it became a pathway. Kind of like a sandy ocean with well-known routes that connected the north and the south. So it was a wall and it was a bridge at the exact same time. And all this variety in the landscape, it just naturally creates different ways of living. Take the Sahel, that huge zone between the desert and the grasslands. You see this mix of farming and herding. Then you get to the open savanna and boom, those grasslands can support much bigger populations. And of course, there's the Nile River. It's not just a river, right? It's a total lifeline. It's water, it's fertile soil, it's a highway that lets whole civilizations pop up. Every landscape has a different rulebook for how you survive. Okay, so people adapt to where they live. We get that. But here is where things get really, really interesting. Those day-to-day things you do to survive, they don't stay just practical things. Over generations, they slowly turn into traditions, into rituals, and eventually into entire belief systems. And that leads us right to this idea of animism. This is a belief system that comes straight from being deeply, totally dependent on the world around you. It's the belief that everything, the river, that tree over there, the animals you hunt, has a spirit. It's not just a rock, it's a living presence. And just think about that for a second. If you believe that the river that feeds you and your family has a spirit, how does that change how you treat it? You don't just use it anymore. You respect it. You create ceremonies for it. Your survival strategy, relying on that river, just became a spiritual practice. Here's another really powerful example: ancestor veneration. It's this belief that your ancestors are still around, watching over and guiding the living. So what's the point? Well, it creates this incredibly strong, unbreakable bond in a family, in a whole community. It connects the past to the present, which is absolutely crucial for keeping a society stable and helping it survive. So you've got beliefs literally growing out of the ground. But what happens when people start moving across that ground? Well, as we're about to see, geography didn't just create beliefs, it also carved out the very pathways for them to travel. The trans-Saharan trade is the classic case. On the surface, it's super simple. West Africa had tons of gold. North Africa had huge deposits of salt, which, was essential for preserving food. So you trade gold for salt. And this exchange created one of the most important trade networks in all of history. But, and this is the absolute key, the camels weren't just carrying gold and salt. Every trader, every single caravan, was also carrying stories, culture, and their faith. These trade routes became, for all intents and purposes, information highways. And the biggest idea moving along them? Religion. And you can see this so clearly with the spread of Islam. In a lot of West Africa, it didn't spread by conquest. Instead, traders from the north just brought their faith with them, along those same routes that geography had created. They'd share their beliefs along the way, and pretty soon, huge trading cities like Timbuktu became world-famous centers for Islamic learning. And it's really important to remember, this wasn't the only major faith on the move. While Islam's spread is a huge story, Christianity has incredibly ancient roots in Africa too. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, for instance, is one of the oldest Christian traditions anywhere in the world, and for centuries it developed on its own, kind of protected and shaped by the rugged Ethiopian highlands. It's a perfect example of a unique geography helping to create a unique expression of faith. So when we finally pull back and look at the whole continent, we don't see one simple picture. What we see is this complex, beautiful tapestry. You have threads of indigenous beliefs, of Islam, of Christianity, all woven together. And the pattern of that tapestry? It was drawn by the map of the land itself. Which brings us all the way back to that first big question. After looking at survival and belief and trade, can we say for sure, are geography and religion actually connected? The answer is a huge, undeniable yes. It's like a chain reaction, a domino effect. Geography shapes how you survive. The way you survive becomes a tradition. Those traditions, mixed with the environment, inspire beliefs. And then the physical pathways carved by geography, like trade routes, let those beliefs spread. Look, if you take away just one single thing today, let it be this. Beliefs are a reflection of the environment they grew up in. Geography didn't just carve out mountains and rivers. It helped shape the very architecture of our faith. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. This whole process, it's not just ancient history. Our modern geography, the geography of cities, of the internet, of a changing climate, it's shaping us right now, as we speak. So the real question is, how is the geography of your world shaping the beliefs of tomorrow?